We gotta do claps.
That's fair.
Lily, you gotta clap.
Lily can clap.
Okay, you don't have to clap.
Hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back to the King of the Bean. I'm your host Ian. I have Josh, Ryan, special guest, our aunt, and Lily, the therapy dog.
Can you see her behind the candelabra?
Probably not.
She has trading cards.
Yeah. If you want one, comment
Too bad.
down below and we'll send you one.
Too bad.
Just put your address in the comments.
Come to one of Lily's many events, and you can collect one too.
Yeah.
But we will not be shipping anything.
But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Ian?
We're talking about Kamala Harris.
Ooh. So leading up to the election, which will be
A week from when this comes out.
We thought it would be appropriate to talk about Harris because we've already talked about Trump and kind of compare and contrast policies. And we brought Auntie on because she's more of a political expert than we are. And she watches more than we do.
I do.
So hopefully that helps flesh things out. And it's a different perspective than just the three of us.
It's true.
And while we hope a lot of people have voted already, because early voting is important, if you haven't already, maybe you need some persuading. Hopefully this will give you some information that you need to vote for the right person.
And vote.
And vote.
And vote in general, yeah, I agree.
Well, that's important, but if you're going to vote for Trump, you don't need to show up. That's fine.
That's how you really feel.
Unbiased.
But yeah, so I thought we would start off with talking about like what we know about Harris and what we think about her as a candidate. And I will open the floor up to whoever wants to go first.
I'll start off with like the most like non-political viewpoint. For me personally, I feel like Kamala Harris is very, very charismatic, which goes a long way for a lot of people, especially for people like me who don't necessarily know a lot about like the political view of a lot of things. As much as I've learned through this whole endeavor and everything, like there's still a lot of things that I'm not really aware of. Yeah. And because there is a lot. And,
yeah, there is.
And then that's the overall part about it all. But Kamala Harris has brought in she's brought in comfort in the idea that yes, these are very serious things and you don't have to be so overwhelmed. Here is the information that you need to know, and let me explain to you in a friendly way why this is what we should probably go towards doing. Which is very nice for someone who I feel like would get overwhelmed if someone was just telling me like, do this, do that, do this, and just get assaulted, essentially verbally assaulted on like what to do. Like I wouldn't react well to that. Yeah. And to have someone just be like, let me just explain to you what's going on and why we should probably do this. Right. That's a much nicer approach than what Donald Trump has been doing a lot of times, which is also he has been saying just a lot of nonsense. Yeah. So
he's not a off person anymore.
No. Yes, to feed off of that, I mean, not even talking politics, but you're right, the whole happy warrior as opposed to the doom and gloom of Trump, it's just a much better feeling, right? Absolutely. I'd rather vote for something that's positive and looking as opposed to
positive.
Correct, yeah.
But yeah, that's my point of view as someone who has probably the least amount of knowledge in politics here.
But I think it says a lot that you are somebody who has, for the most part, probably been apolitical, at best, maybe even, that this is somebody who has made you more interested in politics, even slightly, but she is someone who has shifted that needle a little bit, and I think that shows a lot about her personality and her approach to this whole thing, that even someone who has been for the most part disinterested is now even a little bit interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that speaks volumes.
I do too. Yeah.
Well, I have to say
looks over.
It's interesting talking to you three because I've been watching stuff, and one of the things that they've been saying is that young men, particularly young white men, have been going away from Harris because she's not macho enough, the whole image. And they're wondering if men in general, but young men in general, would vote for a woman. And it's nice to hear that, you are thinking about the politics of it, right? What her policies are, and not just that she's a woman, because it does, as a woman myself, it does infuriate me when they say things like, well, she's not qualified. I mean, she's been a district attorney.
I mean, she's been in every branch of the government. If she's not qualified to be president, nobody is.
She's more qualified.
We went from the most unqualified candidate in Donald Trump in 2016 to the most qualified candidate, Kamala Harris, and nobody questioned his credentials.
Correct.
And people love that he didn't have credentials.
Yeah,
that was a huge selling point. Is he's not a politician. He's an outsider, and that's what we want. And whereas for Harris, she's as much of a politician as one could be in terms of experience. And they're like, that's not good enough. But it's because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Correct.
100%.
The sexism behind
it.
Yeah. So that's frustrating for me because even Mexico has its first woman president.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Go Mexico.
So
North America can just be woman dominant, and that'd be pretty cool.
Wouldn't it?
That would be interesting. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't get the whole woman thing and having to be all macho or whatever. I think she will be a strong leader, and have put us in the proper direction, and that's macho enough. You don't have to be a big dude to lead our country.
Well, I think that's just an hangover of the sexism that this country has had for a long time.
Well, the thing that irritates me is that, okay, she's a woman, but I guess he represents manhood in some ways. But the fact that he's willing,
toxic masculinity,
yeah, right. Well, when he kowtows to, Putin and that's to me he's weak. He doesn't represent a strong individual.
No, he is a very submissive man.
Right.
But he puts on these airs of being dominant.
Yeah, but I feel anybody who isn't just blindly following him can see through that facade and be no, you're just a puppet.
Yeah.
But, all his supporters are oh, he's Mr. Machismo, and it's no, he's such a coward.
Yeah.
The other thing that irritates me is when you do compare policies, right? Because right now, Kamala Harris is out there trying to close, the case on her campaign, and she is giving specifics about how she will help the middle class and young people who want to buy homes and the price gouging and all of this. And Trump just says things like, I have a concept of a plan.
Yeah, I have a concept.
Well, and it's crazy to think that, he started running over 8 years ago. He still doesn't have plans.
No.
And it's you've been at this for almost a decade and we haven't seen a single plan in many facets. It's just crazy.
Well, and that's something that I've seen Mark Cuban point out a lot too, because Mark Cuban, who's a billionaire from was on Trump's side for a while in the beginning, and he was he's done a lot of interviews where he was I told Trump from the beginning, you need to have ideas, you need to have plans, you need to understand the issues, you need to learn what's going on, and you need to have policies. You need to work. You need to try. You need to do something. And he's and Trump just refused to. He refused to learn the issues. He refused to learn anything. He refused to come up with any ideas. And he's just skating by. And he's and that's one of the reasons why I don't support him anymore. Because Mark Cuban has come out very supportive of Harris to the point where he wants to be in her cabinet. He wants to be in charge of the economics in her cabinet, because that's how. And people ask him why did you switch? And he's because Harris has policies. Harris has ideas. She knows the issues. She knows what's going on. And she doesn't always come up with ideas, but she also surrounds herself with people who do understand that too, and she listens to them. And she comes up with policies, actual tangible policies that she then can present. She has substance, whereas Trump has nothing. And because he refuses to, it's his decision of just, I'm not going to learn anything, I don't care.
Yeah. I think when you boil it down, I think one of the things that makes me prefer Harris.
That's a polite way to put
it. Is, I'm going to say, empathy, right? Because she understands what it is to be in the situation of most of us are, right? She worked at McDonald's. She had, she had parents who were divorced. She, so when she looks at people like us, she doesn't see trash or garbage as he's pronounced us all to be, right? Peons. She sees people who have issues and problems that she would like to solve. Yeah. I truly believe that, and that makes a difference, right?
When she's definitely like Team America, like you can tell she's the one who wants to fight for a better place for all of us, and he is fighting for himself.
Yes.
Like, and a lot of other people have clinged to him and are trying to use him for their gain, because he probably, it seems like he won't last his whole presidency, so people are trying to see what they can do, and that's why Vance is his running mate and stuff, and that's a whole terrible ordeal. Yeah. Meanwhile, we have Walz on the other side, who's amazing. Yeah. And super
also
cool
very
guy.
Empathetic.
Right.
Super empathetic.
Yeah.
I just remember it was the one clip of a rally somewhere. I forget where it was, but it was like happening outside, and someone in the crowd was like having a heat stroke, and he was on the verge of just like leaving the stand and be like, wait, no, get like, I need to help that person, but he's like making sure that person got the help. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a little thing in the grand scheme of things, if you really think about it, but it mattered so much.
And if that happened at a Trump rally, Trump would be making fun of that person. Like 100%. Because that's what he's done over and over again.
Somebody got shot at his rally and he didn't even call and do anything.
Didn't care.
No.
Biden called him.
Right. When they were in Coachella over here, right? When they were...
everybody got stranded.
And there were people were fainting, and he... Like you said, he's like, are we done fainting? Is everybody fainting now?
You're telling me about that.
It's like...
Yeah, like, what an asshole.
Because he doesn't care about people.
We just have such contrasting...
parties.
People.
Not even parties, but, like, what are they called? The...
Character?
The candidates?
Yeah, candidates. That's the word I'm looking for. Or, like, tickets. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, because of them.
Yeah, just such contrasting tickets. Like, one is very, like, more... positive and uplifting and like good vibes, and the other one's just so negative and anti everything, and so depressing.
Yeah.
And like even from Harris's like VP pick, like she could have gone with other people who maybe could have gotten her more votes in some swing states or been like more strategic, but she went with Walz, who's just like a great guy, and he's done great in that position.
But again, you and teachers. But
education.
You have a ticket where you have literal public servants, right? They are there to help people. And on the other side, you have Trump, who's there to help himself, as you said, but also Vance, who his entire career has been financed by venture capitalists. He was only in Congress for a very short time,
and switching sides to whichever is going to support him, because he was an adamant anti-Trumper for a long time until Trump was like, "Hey, bud, you want to hang out?" And he's like, "Oh, Trump's the best!" Like just on a dime, because it serves him now. Yeah,
so it's very, it's a very different worldview.
I feel like you can't have more opposing tickets.
I agree.
Especially like in this day and age.
Because when I was younger, you could vote for, you might see yourself voting for a Republican. Our family has always been Democratic, but it's like I didn't always vote Democratic, right? But I literally cannot see voting for anyone, not the top of the ticket or anywhere else, a Republican, because they support this.
Well, even Dad was saying, our dad has been, in case you were confused, has been Republican his whole life. And on Wednesday, we were watching Survivor. And usually when we watch Survivor, politics comes up and we have some conversations or whatever. And even Dad said, like, I've been a Republican my whole life, but I think I'm going to vote all blue this year. And, like, that, I think, is pretty amazing. Because, like, and I hope that more people have that mentality. Because at this point, it shouldn't be about politics. right? It shouldn't be about parties, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
It has everything to do about politics.
It has everything to do about politics, yeah. But it shouldn't be about parties because it's not. We're long past parties. We're past. Are we, as a country and as a society, going to move forward, or are we going to forsake everything for a dictator?
Well, what's crazy is this is how it felt like in 2016, though. Like, it shouldn't have been about party then. It was like the crazy dude who thinks he can just pop in and win, or, you know, the established person. And it didn't work out. And then in 2020, it flipped back. And then now we're just doing the dance of 2016 again.
Hopefully with a different outcome, though.
Like, it does feel very different,
it does,
but at the
different.
same time, similar.
Yeah, but I feel like in 2016, one, Trump was new and novel and different, and that excited a lot of the country. And two, I don't think Hillary was the best person to oppose him. And I think that was the problem there. And I think that was a result of people being like, oh, we have to put a woman in office. Like, I think it became about that specifically, so they backed her mostly because she was a woman. And I think we kind of forced it. Yeah. And I think that's what ruined it.
Okay, so this might be before your time, but Hillary Clinton had a long history from when she was back as First Lady, right? That she actually wanted to get into policy and she wanted to help write the health care, and people were like, whoa, right? First Lady doesn't do that. You don't do that. So there was...
First Lady doing things? No.
Yeah, so there was a lot of pushback on her because she was very ambitious.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with an ambitious person, but it was very difficult for... And think a lot of people didn't like her. Yeah. And then when it came out with Clinton and what he was doing, you know, the...
Scandal.
Yes.
Yeah.
He and that she stood by him. You know, the other part of feminists were like, what are you doing, right? Why are you staying with your husband, blah, blah, blah? It's because your ambition... So I think there was a lot of baggage she had with her.
Yes.
That people just didn't like her very much. And I mean, it's unfortunate. She was a very smart woman. She was a very capable woman, but she was the wrong person for the time.
Yes.
I think she was
especially against someone like Trump.
Yeah, I think
weaponized all of that.
A good candidate, and she would have made a good president. But I think she just had too many flaws and cracks for Trump to take advantage of.
Yeah, and I don't think Harris has that.
But also, I think because at that time it would have been Hillary or Bernie. Yeah. And I really don't think Bernie would have won either at that point.
I don't know. I think Bernie might have. I think he might have, because a lot of people, at least I know a lot of people our age, love
but I
Bernie.
feel like
as soon as he was off the ticket, I think a lot of the excitement for the election dipped.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people were excited for Bernie, but a lot of people more in the middle or older, we would have been lost if Bernie was the nominee.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll never know.
We won't.
So let's talk about her plan a little bit. So I was going through her website and her issues. So most of them are kind of economic based that she has laid out. So on her website, she has laid out 2 core issues that she wants to tackle. One of them is like increasing the strength of the middle class, making life more affordable for us. And the other one is heavily geared towards increasing opportunities for black men. We are not going to speak on that because that is not really...
Except, I want to say that when you increase opportunities for minorities, you increase opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's important for people to know that, yes, she may be targeting a specific group because they've been underrepresented. But when you target those groups, that doesn't mean other people are excluded.
Right.
When the economy grows, we all do better.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it's not like the economic policy changes that she's saying these things are for black men, but it's not like it says, oh, you only get the tax credit if you're black and a man. It's just like these are things that, you know, black men would more likely have, but you know, if you're white or Asian or whatever, and you also fit this category or these conditions, like, you know, you also benefit. So yeah, but I just chose not to dig into that because I was like, you know, it's not targeted to me, and I don't know if I'll understand where all this is coming from. Some of the things outlined in her policies and issues regarding economics are that she wants to increase the child tax credit so that families with young children, don't pay as much in taxes. They get to keep more of their money because, kids are expensive. Yeah. And kids only get more and more expensive.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Especially as prices are going up. And then also giving an extra $6,000 tax cut for families with kids in their first year of life, because having a kid that was just born is extra expensive because, you have to pay for all the extra stuff. They have more health issues in the first year while they're still figuring out how to be alive.
Because living sucks sometimes. But
I
wanted to say that when they gave the child tax credit during the pandemic, they lifted a significant number of families out of poverty, right? And unfortunately, the Republicans did not want to sign to renew that. So she's hoping to bring it back, and I hope she does, because, again, same thing, right? If there's more money in these people's pockets, right, to help raise their families, that improves the economy for all of us.
Well, yeah, because there's more money in the people's pockets. They're going to go spend that money in other places. The money will circulate, and it'll be spent more, increase the GDP. We're all better off. Whereas if all that money is either taken out of consumers' pocket and just goes to the government, they're not going to spend it. It's not going to go into the business pocket. We can't spend that on our necessities, and everybody's just going to be struggling, hoard their money for savings.
Yeah. That's why I don't understand that whole idea of having people have less money, right? Like lower wages, like higher prices, because if people don't have money, then they're not spending money.
Well, it's like
so if you have money, you spend the money.
I never get companies that I feel like there's a lot of companies that sell goods and stuff, and their employees probably can't even afford their product. Yeah. And it's just well, who do you expect to be buying your product if your own employees can't?
Right.
Like, I was reading that millennials are killing the fabric softener industry, and it's like, because you don't need fabric softener to wash your clothes.
Right. You just put in one of those slippy
things. You're not killing it, we just don't need it anymore.
It's obsolete.
We don't need it, and we don't need to spend that extra money on something. And they're like, oh, well, you're killing the industry. And it's like, no, it's useless.
It's funny
evolve into something else.
Yeah, well, it's funny too that they're blaming a generation for killing it when just technology has evolved to the point where it's not necessary anymore.
Well, I don't know if it's that it evolved. I mean, fabric softener is not really useful.
Well, yeah, you don't. Well, and washing machines, you don't pour liquids or anything anymore. You put a little Tide Pod thing, or you put the little strippies we have now. You just pop that sucker in there and you're done.
Strippies?
Yeah, the little cloth strip thing.
The dryer sheet?
No, it's in the washer. There's one that you put in the washing machine.
Yeah, there are washing.
And it dissolves into the detergent sheets. Yeah.
They're supposed to be more eco-friendly.
Yeah.
More eco-friendly. But I will argue. I want to argue.
Okay, devil's advocate.
Well, no, but I think when you're also talking about child tax credits, right, and putting more money in the pockets of families, that you're also, if you want to talk, pro-life, there you go. You're talking about the lives of children, making those children's lives better, not just a baby coming out of the womb.
If you're gonna make the baby be born, you better support that life.
But that's correct. The thing. That's what it's such a misnomer that it's a pro-life.
Yeah, that's
movement.
The biggest con that they've ever done.
It's pro-life when it's just pro-birth. Because once the kid's alive, we don't care about it.
Correct.
We don't care about protecting the kids from guns that kill a lot of kids in schools. We don't care about their education. We don't care about the kid whatsoever. We just want it to be born.
They don't care about the life of the mother either.
Exactly.
Her job is just to carry the child. And then once it pops out, both of them can die for all they care.
Yeah.
Well,
they were pro-life. The birth happening, and then if two people die, well, the life happened.
Yeah. So that's all we care about.
Because in Texas right now, mortality rates are soaring for mom and baby.
So explain that. How is that pro-life when more people are dying? What about that as pro-life?
But I don't know how switching it to pro-birther has not caught on, because I feel like that would
it doesn't have the same impact, right? Just because it sounds like what it is. Right, you don't want it to sound like what it is, because what it is bad.
No, but
so if you say
the other side should call them pro-birthers.
They should.
They call themselves pro-lifers because it makes them sound better.
Yeah.
But Lily, where are you going? We're in the middle of something.
Yeah. I think she got hot.
That's fair.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's hot.
Sorry.
Can I ask a question about the $6,000 tax cut thing.
Tax credit.
Tax credit, my bad. I don't have a child. I don't know how much my parents personally paid for my first year of life. You know, have no memories of that.
You weren't aware of what their checkbook looked like?
No. But I genuinely don't know. It sounds like a lot, but I genuinely don't know how much like the first year of life actually costs, and I don't know if any of you guys have perspective on that.
So, but all this basically does is that
He raised his hand.
I was just gonna ask: is it $6,000 per child for the year, or is it just
So
First year, right?
first
so
year
you get an extra $6,000 for the
of
first
credit.
year?
Yeah. So basically, when you go to file your taxes, you know, it'll tell you how much you owe in taxes for the entire year.
Sure.
So basically, this just takes $6,000 off of that. If you have a child dependent listed that is between 0 and 1 years old.
That's how that works. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot
Right?
more
That's how that would work?
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense. And that makes it easier to like.
Yeah. It's not like anybody's giving you $6,000 or
it's-
anything. It's just when it comes tax time, they would calculate that and you would
And then
either get it in like a
reduce.
refund or if you were to owe, like it would
'cause
be
you could
adjusted at
earn.
that time.
You could
Got it.
technically
Okay.
earn money
And-
if your taxes are less than $6,000.
Okay, that's so much simpler.
And
Yeah.
being that I am not a parent either, but I will tell you that it's probably a lot more expensive than $6,000.
I was about to say, like, children seem expensive in
well,
general.
because diapers, food,
If it's your first child, just having
all the
equipment.
baby stuff,
Yeah.
crimps,
Yeah.
toys,
so much darker.
paraphernalia.
I really did.
But
You
yeah,
remember
no, but
from
that was
Happy-
another thing too. Is like in my head, children are expensive, and
Yes.
6,000 would not cut it. But
Well, this is an
They would-
increase and an extra
yeah,
that doesn't exist. But I mean, there's already credits that exist.
yes, but
So
as
maybe.
again, like I don't know much, but like 6,000 to just help out with the kids. Yes, that helps. And from your previous statement, how like that helped get a lot of people out of poverty with just like the tax cut credit.
Yeah.
Beforehand, it's like, oh, it must be doing something because I don't
Yeah.
know how much it was for the tax credit beforehand. Was it also 6,000?
No, it was less.
It was
I
less.
believe, yeah.
Oh, even
Yeah.
better then.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
less and we're getting more out of this one, then that's gonna help out so much more.
Well, and I think the thing is too is a lot of with these policies and stuff is it's like a first step, right? This
Yeah.
isn't like we're gonna solve the issues here. This is what we're gonna do first.
Yeah.
And see what happens, and then we can adjust from there.
Yeah.
Elliot is not comfortable anywhere.
She's very restless right now.
It's gonna be nice to have parents breathe a little bit.
I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah, children are very expensive, but it's like the government's not gonna pay for your whole
No,
child's existence.
and
But it's like
I
an
don't think
extra 6,000 definitely goes a long way.
no, absolutely. I just didn't know how much that like quantified and how exactly it worked out. But like,
She's free roaming.
but even if like less than 6,000 was able to relieve a lot of people, like this is gonna be great for so many parents out there.
No, 100%.
So
And that's what
that,
we
that was
want.
my question. And
We
why I want
want
clarification.
we
on
want
that.
families who are not in poverty. We want to give people more money because again, going back to it, if people have more money, people spend more money, and the economy gets better. That's just basic economic macro principles.
Yes.
But yeah, and then she also wants to increase the earned income tax credit, which Ryan explain what that is.
So the earned income tax credit helps low to moderate income workers and families get a tax break. So basically, if you are in the low to moderate section of income, which I don't know what that exactly is. This is from the IRS website, so this is ideally correct information. And they have criteria and what you qualify for. But if you qualify for this tax break, then that means that you get tax credit when you do your taxes. Just like with the family or with the child one, whereas if you have a child,
You get
for that
6,000
first year
credit.
you get a tax credit for your taxes. If you are low income to moderate income and qualify for it, then you also will get credit to your taxes at the end. So you can either pay
Does
less
it say
or
how much, or is it just like?
I
based
think it's
off of-
dependent on what the income is and what the
Okay.
criteria
That
is.
would
So
make
it's
sense.
it's a fluctuating scale, and what
which
I
is
would,
great.
yeah, and what I would imagine is the lower your income, the more credit you get.
Yeah.
Which again will help people because either you pay less taxes, which is great because you have more money in your pocket, or you even get a little bit back on your taxes, which again is more money in your pocket, which is great.
and then you can use that to spend, and the whole economy is good.
Yeah.
And happening and flowing.
Another goal is to lower the cost of food and groceries by investing federal money in building resilient food supply chains.
Food and groceries, does that mean like food that we get from like a fast food restaurant too, along with like,
Well,
just
basically,
groceries?
it's anything you would find at the grocery store,
Yeah.
and therefore anything that the fast food restaurants are buying also.
Would also lower because of
And it would lower their prices because they're also getting their ingredients cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that we found during the pandemic is that these chains, the supply chains, were more fragile than we thought. And so there was a lot of disruption, and Trump was president during that time and did nothing to bolster that. That was one of the things that... So she's saying that really we need to make them more resilient so whatever happens, because one of the reasons why, toilet paper was really high or we weren't getting any of that and was because of these supply chains breaking down. So we need to make sure that they are much more resilient so that there isn't the price fluctuation. The other thing she's talked about and that she did as Attorney General is fight price gouging, right? Because some of the rises in prices we're seeing in the grocery store has to do with companies just not bringing their prices down even though they're not paying as much to produce items. And so she really wants to go after them, and I think that's something that we should be looking at. Corporate greed. Why is something so high?
Yeah, I do have that on here, and she has that on her list too, is that she is going to call upon Congress to pass a ban on price gouging and I think it's specifically for food, but I would hope that once, depending on how well that goes, we could expand that, because I don't think it just applies to food.
No, I think it's everything.
But I think that's definitely a good place to start, because we all need food.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
but what
very
did you
basic.
want to say?
I just had a question is there any information on how she would bolster the resilience of supply chains?
She just said investing, government money, is what it says here.
Do you know any
what
more
I
about
remember.
that?
I don't. I just heard her talking about it because that was one of the things that, we had issues with. So whether it's investing in infrastructure as far as our ports, making sure they can take in more supply, in shipping and things because that's where things started breaking down, right?
Right.
I think she might be talking about that kind of things at ports and
So the
of entry.
specific paragraph says that the Vice President will build on progress made to strengthen and diversify our supply chains for food production, processing, and distribution. Many food supply chains still remain too concentrated, allowing for single points of failure if a plant goes down or a drought or pest affects a particular region. Vice President Harris will focus on expanding production among new suppliers and small farms, growers, and processors to create broad-based supply chains. So basically, we have a lot of areas that just are our main supply chain, and if that area goes down, we're screwed.
Right.
Well, all you have to do is think of agribusiness now, right? So
Agribusiness?
yeah. So when I was an
Agriculture
agriculture
business.
when I was an agriculture major, right, many of the people who are growing, you had big businesses, but you also had small and medium farms, right?
Okay.
Now, many of those agricultural businesses buy up small farms and medium farms, family farms, because it can be very difficult to maintain a family farm because of how expensive it is.
Yeah.
And so you have, will have one large poultry producer instead of a bunch of little ones. So if there is bird flu that goes through one whole facility, well then your prices of chicken are going to go up, right? Because no one has it. Whereas before there might be other places where you could get that product.
Or you just don't get chicken because all the chickens are dead or whatever,
Right.
and then
Well,
no
that's
more
what you're
chicken.
saying.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is that things are becoming more concentrated. I don't know, if this has anything to do with monopolies, but it's, there used to be things against monopolies.
sounds
Well,
like
that does lead into a couple of other points, is that she wants to increase competition in the food market, and she was talking about how she wants to crack down on big food mergers or buyouts of smaller companies, and also support and give money to those smaller farms or food suppliers to allow them to be able to compete with the big food places and be able to grow and become players.
I think it's good that she's focusing on food too. I think that's a good place to start because everyone needs to eat.
Yeah.
Instead of starting in
Well, and I think that's been one of the biggest what's the term for it? Like struggle points or frustrations as of recent is just that grocery prices are ridiculous. Like when a dozen of eggs is like $5 or whatever, like, or a carton of milk.
I went down the street because I went for a walk the other day, and in the corner there's like a 99, not like the big corporate one, it's like a small
99-cent plus store.
Yeah, cent plus store. And I was just looking around, and I got myself like a little Coke, and then I was like looking down the aisle, and I was like, oh, we need ketchup. The price of a ketchup that's probably like maybe like 2.5 ounces or whatever how you measure it for it. A small ketchup bottle was $5.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's ridiculous.
That seems like way too much.
That's ridiculous and not 99 cents.
When he came home...
Well, and that's the thing, too, right? 99-cent stores are not 99-cent stores anymore.
Well, it did say 99-cent or more stores.
I know, but even like the Dollar Tree, you would be hard-pressed to find something for $1 in the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, remember we used to get those little ninja toys for $1?
Yeah, not anymore. That'd be like $5 now.
Yeah. But
and break in 2 seconds.
But that is the issue of it all. Like, things just keep inflating, and there's no relief.
Because it's due to price gouging. And it's due to corporate profit and greed.
And, like, I don't know how a ban will work on it. Like, I don't know how you can, like, regulate... I feel like there'd have to be a lot of behind-the-scenes work going on. But I've always wished there was more transparency in, like, where prices come from, especially in restaurants. Like, when you see a $20 hamburger, it's like, how much of that is the ingredients? How much of that is, like, for your staff and, like, your establishment and that stuff? Because it's like, this is, like, there's no way it should cost $20 to make this hamburger. Like, it doesn't taste like any fancy meat or anything, like... Right. At some of these places, it just seems ridiculous. What were you gonna say?
On a side-ish note of it, I just wish that when you go to a store to buy something, it had it with the tax on it.
Oh yeah, that would be
so nice.
I mean, that's how they do it in other countries.
Just give us even numbers too. $5, $10, and that
no, it's 99.
We don't need change anymore. We don't even use change anymore. Just let's have it all be nice and even.
Yeah, somebody give me change and it's still sitting on my desk at work because. What am I going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it? Flip a coin when you need to. That's it. That's all it's good for.
All I need is a quarter for when I go to Aldi, so I can unlock the grocery cart.
Yeah.
But then I get it back, so I just need 1 quarter.
Yeah. I mean, well, because you can't even buy... and that's another commentary on the economy, is you can't even buy anything with that anymore. Nothing's a quarter.
No.
No, you can buy like a clove of garlic.
Oh, wow. A whole clove? That's something, I guess. But like it's to the point where it's not even useful anymore. So if it's not useful, why do we have it?
That's a whole different conversation.
But yeah, and then the last point I have on like economic changes or policy is to further lower prescription drug prices because her and Biden have been working on that already. So she wants to continue the negotiations with drug companies. They've already lowered it for people on Medicare, like for insulin, capped it at $35 a month. Same with like inhaler costs, $35 a month. She wants to expand those benefits to all Americans, but also try to increase competition in the healthcare industry and demand transparency from drug manufacturers. Yeah. I feel like patents on drugs are kind of ridiculous. Like insulin.
You can own a drug.
Yeah. Like the whole insulin thing, like there's a patent on it, which is why it's so expensive because other people can't produce it or whatever. And then because there's that one guy that said like insulin should be free, but somebody bought the patent or whatever. Is that what it was? And then
something like that, yeah.
And then
jacked the price up.
Yeah, they jacked the price up and was like, this is how I'm gonna make my millions because people need this, and
people
it's like something that is a necessity for people to live should not be allowed to be so expensive.
But that's the thing. That's you coming from a humanistic perspective, though. These people and companies don't come from a humanistic perspective. They come from a profit perspective.
But Kamala Harris also comes from a humanistic perspective.
She does.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say the people who first created insulin, I think. At that time, people were more humanistic, right? They were more about society and making things better. And we have grown into being less so. Yeah. Well, and so we need to regulate that.
Well, and I think that's become a very American thing, too. I feel like there's a lot of other countries that are still for building up their society as a whole and like working to make each other better. Like it seems like there's European countries that are still like that, or like Japan, they're very much like even just cleanliness and respect for their environment. They're so much like, we do this because we care about our country. Meanwhile, here people just don't care. And it's become very like dog eat dog. Like, I'll worry about myself, you worry about yourself, I don't care.
Well, it's like I've mentioned before, it's the collectivist attitude, as in we're all in this together, we all have responsibility, versus the individualist attitude where it's all about me and mine. And we're in a very individualistic society here, whereas other people are more collectivist.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dispute that, because generally that's true. It's just that let's not lose sight of the fact that there are good people doing good things out there.
Well, yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about like the overall.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's nice to have that, we do still have those people.
Yeah.
Because they're also, it'd be a very dark place.
True.
Well, and isn't she also doing something to help like young people buy houses? Like giving out like...
So she's... Yeah. I didn't see that in her plan on her website. Or maybe I didn't write it down. But yeah, I read about it before. I think Dad or you sent that to me.
Right, so that she wanted to give, and I don't know if it's tax credit, but it's $25,000 for first-time home buyers for your down payment. And I think that's amazing that anybody's thinking about that.
Yeah.
But it's that, but it's also she wants to work with localities to work on zoning so that more houses can be built so that it can be affordable for people to live in. So she wants to do it in a two-pronged way, right? Mm-hmm. Providing on the side of an individual who wants to buy, but also regulation and government and how they can help.
I would definitely like to see some type of regulation about the whole Airbnb type industry. Like people just buying out homes just for Airbnbs. Like it just takes up a huge, especially in Southern California, I feel like takes up a huge part of the housing market and inflates prices just because people are using these as income properties when there's so many people in the area that can't afford a home where they work and live. Yeah. And that seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. So, I just think she is focused in the right area with the right things.
Yeah.
Because, yes, people want to be able to live and work in the same area and not have large commutes or not be able to afford, things that, that they need to live. And so I think she's working on a whole cadre of policies that, as you were saying, help the middle class, but improve our quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah. And it's nice that she's focused on us because, the other side is focused on giving tax cuts to billionaires and also, this whole getting rid of and I know it sounds great. People go, oh, Trump wants to get rid of income tax. Yes, but he wants to do it all through tariffs. And the problem with tariffs is we pay for tariffs.
Yeah, everything we buy is going to be more expensive.
Exactly. And I've seen both Mark Cuban talking about it and other economists talking about it in certain clips of talking about how like there's this misconception and it's perpetuated by Trump to try and get
because he says China's gonna pay for it, and then Mark Cuban's running around like that meme with what is it like Goose like chasing people like
from Untitled Goose
he just makes me think about that like where's the money coming from and because it's really just gonna be us paying for it, not China.
And he said, and other economists have said like that's not how it works. Whoever is purchasing it is going to be paying for it because he was saying like the two options for a company when there are tariffs is either you eat the tariff, like the company eats the tariff and like they just pay that extra cost, or they just put it on the consumers. And so what they're gonna do is just put it on the consumers. So then consumers are just paying more for products and companies are then making more, and all that's doing is hurting the people. It's not solving any problems, and it's not making anything cheaper for anybody, and it's certainly not taking money away from other countries because they're not going to be paying for it.
Right. Because he's not using a tariff. So tariffs are used to protect American products, right? So if you have lumber coming from another country and lumber coming from the United States, you want the lumber coming from another country to be more expensive, so they buy the American lumber. But if there is no choice, if the only product you're getting is from another country, then you have to buy it. And if you have to buy it, then you have to pay the tariff. You know, so it's okay if it's targeted, but if he wants to do it across the board like 30%, that's a lot more money, you know, for, I'm just thinking about me, you know,
I mean, that's all of our expenses being increased 30%, and we're not being taxed 30%, so that means we're going to be now spending more than what we would get back in the loss of income tax.
Right.
And I mean, we'd still have things like property tax and other stuff, so...
Correct.
Well, at least here, because I know some... No, everybody has property tax.
Everybody does. We actually are one of the more lucky ones because ours is capped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just, there's a lot to think about it, and the thing that, you know, the thing that we need to think about is who is going to benefit us. Not just, there's two ways to think about this election. One is that, right? Voting for your best interests, right? Mm-hmm. Not voting for a dream or something you think is going to happen, but who actually has policies that are going to affect my life and make it better. And the other is voting for who I see my country as. I don't see it as Trump, right? I don't see that ugly vision of the trash can that he's talking about. I do see the hope and the change and the, you know, helping your neighbor, and you know that's Tim Walz and that's Kamala Harris, right? That's who I see, or who I would
want to be.
Yeah, yes. Who I would like us to be.
That's the version of America we want.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to say, as a 5th grade teacher, someone who used to teach the Constitution, you know, every year, all the time, it is hard to think of the fact that our country would not, we have a person on the other side. Trump wants to actually get rid of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. You know, and we have, you know, it is, it's sad to think that there are people who would vote for that and not even realize what they're losing.
Yeah.
And they won't.
And those are the people
until it happens.
And those are the people that also call themselves the patriots.
Right, and the constitutionalists and the founding fathers were the best. And it's like, but you're not even listening.
And you're really ready to rip up those documents.
Yeah.
Right, and they go, oh no, because we were founded, we're a Christian nation, and it's like, no, we were never been. The founding fathers were deists, so they believed in God. Not necessarily a Christian God.
First
they believed in a God.
Amendment says freedom of religion.
Yes.
Like, they said you practice whatever you want.
Yeah.
They didn't say you must practice Christianity.
Well, because that was the whole point, is they were tired of the King of England telling them what they're allowed to do. So they came here and they're like, no, we're going to do what we want to do as long as we're not hurting each other. And their whole concept of separation of church and state was very important because they didn't want religion to be part of the government because it was in England. And they were like, no, we don't like this. We reject this notion. It should not be part of the government. So they came here, made their own government, specifically to not have that. And now you have this whole party who's like, no, that's not what they wanted. And it's like, do you even read? I heard Pete Davidson talking about Donald Trump because he was on SNL when Trump hosted, and he was saying that Trump can't read. He's like, he wouldn't be able to, like, he can't read. And that's why he doesn't use teleprompters. That's why everything's unhinged, because he literally can't read the teleprompter.
That's why they make teleprompters being a bad thing. Yeah,
because he can't read them anyway. So instead of having it there and him being embarrassed that he can't read what's on it, he just says, oh, we don't need this. I know what I'm doing.
And that's why he can't do the issues or anything. He can't.
Because he can't. He physically is not capable of doing that.
And even if he was, I don't think he would be anymore.
Yeah.
He's really deteriorated in the last couple months.
He has.
Since Biden dropped out, I think he lost it.
Yeah, well, he was...
like, he went downhill so fast since that point.
Well, and that's the other thing that's upsetting, right? I mean, Biden still has all his facilities. Yes, he looked frail and weak, and I wasn't excited about voting for him, even though I liked the man. But once he dropped out, no one talked about the fact that Trump was 78.
Right, that was the thing, too. Is like, everyone was crapping on Biden for him being too old and mentally unstable, but
we all knew that was going to happen.
Trump was the same way, and nobody gives him crap for it.
When Trump looks so much worse than Biden ever did.
Yeah.
Well, and the things he talks about. They call, what was I looking at, the Joe Rogan thing, and they call it the weave. the way he talks, and he kind of just brings things
he
in.
just goes on tangents
Yeah.
too, with and just like it's just this circuitous like rambling is all it is. There's nothing there. Like
This whole Hannibal Lecter.
you can listen to him talk for 20 minutes and he won't say anything. Like, it's just rambling.
Right, and this is where your media has been, in my opinion, duplicitous, right? Because they'll listen to all this and then they'll say what he was trying to say was, and you go, no.
You
don't interpret it. Just say what he said.
Well, that's what it always is. It's like, well, that's not what he meant
they really
to say.
excuse
Well, that's not
him, and it's like we should expect more. I mean, they expect so much more from Harris.
Yes.
And they excuse everything Trump does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that for her, it's like, for instance, when a reporter was talking about her race, right, and why, and they said, well, what do you say to Trump, who says, you're black, right? And she's like, well, that's the same old. And what they write, that she didn't want to talk about her race. It's like, no, she didn't feel she had to address it because it's quite obvious she can be Indian and black.
Yeah, and why does that matter?
Yeah, but it's like but it's like, Trump cannot give you any policies at all, and it's okay, but she gives you a policy and it wasn't clear enough. It wasn't it's like they're not being equal. They're not being fair.
It's extremely biased.
And a lot of it, and I hate to say that some of it's because she's a woman, but some of it is because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the Vance Trump stuff lately, it is so insulting to women. Talking about giving girls a spanking, or
I saw Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God.
Talking about so his whole thing. Tucker Carlson gave a speech where he's talking about how when Trump comes back into office, it will be like if your daughter was naughty and you have to give her a spanking.
That was said.
That's what he said. That was
so insulting.
It was like. It just gross. Just a gross analogy.
And you think I say crazy things.
You have to give your daughter a spanking, and you're gonna spank so hard, and it's like you say these are inside thoughts, my dude. Like, this is not things that you get on a stage and say, but like these people are gross and unhinged.
It's true, and it's well, and like Trump is saying things about that he would be good for women because this whole abortion thing, then they won't have to think about it anymore, and they can just be happy because all they're thinking about now is that. But they won't when he's in, because they'll be happy and they'll be, they won't, it's almost like we need somebody to tell us what to do.
Exactly. He's mansplaining being a woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just really insulting.
Well, it's just backwards, right? Instead of allowing women to make their own choices and have their own thoughts and opinions and do what they feel is best for themselves, it's no, let me tell you what you need to do.
Right.
And let me just do it for you and make this decision, and then you don't have to think about it. And it's like, one, that's not even how that works. And two, you're just taking all the power away. Like, that's the exact opposite of good for women.
Yeah. And that what they're not seeing is all the harm it's doing. I mean, it's like you said, if you are pro-life, if that is your...
the candle fell.
Okay. If that is your, your position, then you should be worried about the fact that women who are having trouble with their pregnancy, who want children, are losing the ability to have children because you're waiting till they get to the point of death before you do something about it. So now they can't have any more children if they survive. Mm-hmm. You are doing nothing to protect women and their ability to reproduce later on. You are just, you're psychotic in your, in your hope that, abortion's going to just fix it all. We can't have abortion, so therefore everything's going to be okay. No, because women's health is more than abortion.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's just, sorry, I get a little upset.
No, you should. It's upsetting.
And it doesn't matter how old you are. Yes, I'm beyond the age of bearing children, but that doesn't mean it makes me less upset to think that people would not trust me with my own decisions and, my own desires.
Yeah.
I should be equal to a man and anything a man wanted to do. Because let me tell you, if a man had the ability to have a child, we would not be having this conversation.
100%. 100%. That would have been solved 300 years ago.
Right?
Yeah, at least.
But yeah.
So, yes. And they were saying, polls are saying the two most important issues in this race are the economy
And abortion.
and abortion.
I mean, that makes sense, and I definitely feel like Harris has the edge in both. Or she should.
Economists are saying that Harris, even Republican economists, are saying that Harris has the better economic plan.
She has a plan.
She has a plan, but it's also...
Well, his plan is the tariffs and stuff, and then also tax cuts for the rich and corporations.
Yeah,
and
did you see the guy on MSNBC? He's like an economist, and he had like a whole graph. I saw it on TikTok. This is how I know. He had a whole graph of like comparing the two policies and like their impacts on our economy.
Pass me that pillow.
Their impacts like just kind of universally on the economy. And he was saying like overall Harris's plan won't have like much of an impact on like the GDP and stuff like that. And he's like, and that's a good thing when you look at Trump's impact, which would have like a negative like 9% impact. And he's like, and to put that in perspective, that's worse than the economic crisis we had like in 2008. He's like, so what? By twice
is worse.
Yeah, twice as worse as that recession that we had. And he's like, and what this would do is put us in between a recession and a depression. And leaning towards a depression. And he's like, and if you look at how it will affect people in different parts of the economic scale, what Harris's policy will increase income on the lower to lower middle end of the spectrum, and it will increase the taxes of the wealthier part of the spectrum, the like 90 to 100 percentiles. He said, and Trump's will do the opposite. We will increase the income of the 90 to 100 percentiles, so the rich get richer, and the poor, it will increase their taxes. So poor people will make less under Trump, and rich people will make more under Trump. Rich get richer, poor get poorer, whereas Harris is flipping it, where the poor get wealthier and the rich get poorer.
Yeah, well, when did it...
But only marginally. Well, like, they'll still be very rich.
A billionaire's still going to be a billionaire is the thing, right?
Yeah.
But they will just be paying more in taxes, and the poor people will be paying less in taxes.
Yeah.
Right, because since when did, I mean, we even had robber barons who were not as as rich as the people that are 1% are today, right?
Yeah.
And they cannot spend the amount of money they have, but they still want more.
Right.
There is no there's just no rationale for that.
It's just greed. It's just avarice, right? It's not even greed. It's just like the epitome of greed. It's just, I want all the money possible.
Which, see, this is the whole thing with me, is that you then have these Trump people who are Christians, right? And yet they're only looking at one thing. They see him as the next coming. And, but it's like, then why aren't we worried about the 7 deadly sins, avarice being one of them, right? And, greed. But we're not, right? We're only looking at him for, I don't know, because I'm not one of them, I guess I can't see it. But it's just, it is very disconcerting that you have half the country who is blinded by this guy.
Yeah.
And if we don't, again, being a 5th grade teacher, I should just abdicate that you vote. But I do think in this particular election, there is a wrong and a right.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're inclined to vote for Trump, maybe you can sit this one out. We'll get you next time.
And you know what I'm going to say, too? Just vote for Harris and just see the difference, right? How you guys all love your
and vote for Democrats all the way down, then see the difference, right? Because if she's in and we have a Republican Senate...
They will just block everything she
exactly.
Yeah.
So it would be a wash. But if we vote in Democrats, we might be able to get some of those things in.
Just try it. If you don't like it, then you go back next time.
Because the last time we had full Democrats, like Congress, and President was Obama, right? And that's when we got the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, which we no longer call it that because everybody likes it now. But that was a good thing. That was the last good thing that happened. So maybe we can do that again, guys.
Well, and let's say climate is your voting thing of choice, right? Under Biden-Harris, we have made the most progress when it comes to affecting the environment, right? We have the gains we've made just on their policies alone have been a game changer. Ask anybody, any scientist that works on climate. If we go with Trump, he is going to reverse all of that.
Right. Keep in mind he backs oil companies and fracking and natural gases, which we know are bad for the environment, and all of his policies will be about supporting that and hindering alternative fuel companies.
But he likes electric cars because of Elon Musk.
But he's not even gonna help them.
Yeah.
He's not even gonna help the electric car industry because he in the policies he's backing natural gases.
Well, and he thinks that climate change and the rise of the ocean means that we will have more oceanfront property. So he doesn't understand it. He doesn't want to. He's like, I'm just gonna say it. He's like an old man who's stuck with 50 years ago. That he just doesn't seem to understand that our planet is in danger at this point, and if we aren't going to make policies that are going to fix it, that it's going to affect everybody, right? He may not care about his kids, but I mean, I care about the planet for generations to come, and I hope we don't ruin it.
Well, I think that's what this comes down to also, is like, even if you are older, even if you have whatever your beliefs are, do you care about your kids? Do you care about their potential kids, right? Do you care about what happens later? Because that's what this is ultimately about. And I've seen a lot of people, like I saw Bryan Cranston, he gave a speech supporting Harris. He's like, because I am the father of a daughter, and I care about my daughter. And so I'm going to vote for the president who is going to make my daughter's life better. Not even just with policies and women's rights and stuff, but also just her being able to see a woman as president. That alone is significant to a lot of young girls, right? So do you care about your kids? Do you care about their kids? Do you care about the future at all? Because if you do, if you care about anything that's not just yourself, then there's one option that you should pick. Because the other option doesn't care about any of that. And doesn't care about you, and doesn't care about the future, and doesn't care about anything but themselves.
So I do want to go back into the policy a little bit. So we just have 2 points to hit, really. Education, because I want to highlight the differences in what Trump's plan is.
Good quotes.
To abolish the
abolish
department.
all of it?
His plan to
And privatize it?
Yeah. And then like social issues and
Sure.
stuff like that.
What
So,
time are we at? Just
106.
Okay, that's fine.
But so for education, specifically what Harris has said so far is that she wants to increase Title I spending for schools and fully fund the IDEA program, which will increase resources for disabled students.
Oh.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Title I funding is funding that goes to schools who are in low-income areas. So I think it's like 60%, 50-60%. Like if like a good chunk of your student base is low-income families, and then you are in a low-income area, and then you get extra funding for that.
Yeah, because the schools get the money from the taxes that the people around the school pay, right?
We get money from, yes.
And then, so if those people are not making a lot of money, the school's not going to get as much money.
Right, so this
So,
is used to offset.
Title I is used to help
Yes, it's
keep
federal
all
funds that goes
schools
to
more
schools.
equal in there.
Which, to be fair, it actually ends up making those schools have more resources, and that is kind of an issue because some schools that don't have Title I funds end up not also having as many resources, because if you're in like that middle area, then you don't have the major influx, and you don't have the governmental assistance.
Yeah.
Well,
But that's not a knock against Title I, because Title I is so incredibly important, and these are the communities who need the
yeah,
help.
because
anyway.
actually the problem is not Title I. The problem is the formula of setting the taxes. Because you're right, schools get taxes, but not necessarily from all the places around them. There's a formula that goes into it, so all the property tax that you get, then that's divided up into the schools. And yes, so that formula is kind of weird. So yes, if you're in a poor area, you might get a little more money, and so those middle income schools, because if you have a very
if you're going to public school in Beverly Hills, your public school is probably very funded.
Yes, and it's very funded because parents give a lot of money to it, right? Through their booster programs or whatever.
Right.
So it's usually your middle income schools that are suffering, right?
Yeah,
because schools like mine, which are 100% free and reduced lunch, we get Title I funds. That's how we get our technology, right?
Yeah.
That's how we get, because we are...
And you can have more counselors, and you can have social workers, and you can have all the extra support staff that and wellness centers and stuff like that also go to helping students.
Right. So it should be above what you're getting. But yeah, that funding, the state funding the formula has been a problem for a while, and people have been complaining about it. But Title I works very well.
Yes, it does.
And you know, the thing with, I would love that they would look at the formulas and help, because at my school particularly, we have moderate to severe special education students, and yes, you can see the need for those programs and for aides in those classrooms.
Yes.
And support staff.
Which, sidebar, aides should be full-time and get benefits.
Yes, they should.
Because they're not. They're part-time,
and
it's a horrible job, and there's no incentive to do that job unless you really, really care and you also need
And
a
they're
job.
not paid very well.
No, they're not. It's like barely minimum wage.
Yeah,
maybe.
so it would be really good.
Yes.
So on that topic, the Biden-Harris administration has the American Rescue Plan and Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which funded the hiring and training of more counselors, social workers, and other staff in schools nationwide amid what they called a mental health crisis after the pandemic. So
still going on.
Just to show that she has already worked with Biden to do that, and she wants to further expand and
which is excellent.
Keep that going. And then she also aims to make early childhood education, so like preschool stuff you would do before
TK.
Kindergarten picks you up. And higher education, so college, she wants to make that more affordable, but also see if we can make universal preschool, which to my understanding is like basically adding preschool to the public schools.
In some places, like universal pre-K is already a thing. I'm not sure if it's not in California. We do have TK, but in some states they have. But this would fund it across the board in all 50 states, and that would be great because then it makes kids more prepared to learn.
It also helps parents who are working parents and who need something for their kids to do because daycare is expensive and they can't leave their kids alone all day.
Yeah.
So that's helpful for them too.
So that would be good.
Harris and Walz also both oppose the school voucher program, which is which is Trump's policy, along with abolishing the Department of Education.
Betsy Harris. I remember
Betsy
Davis.
So the problem with school vouchers, for those of you who don't know, is that it takes tax dollars and gives it to people so that they can go spend it on any school they want. Now, what this usually means is, if you're sending your kid to a private school that you're already paying for, guess what? Now the taxpayers, us, will fund your child going to that school, which you probably could afford anyway.
And it also means that if they're going to a religious school, we are now using public money to pay for your religious education.
And that's pulling funds out of your public school.
Yes.
So that means that usually the kids that end up staying, right, because they can't go to, because whatever they say, private schools can have tests, entrance exams to go in or whatever. And if your child's a special education child or just a little behind in their grades, if they can't get into those schools, then they're left in a public school that has been severely defunded because of the vouchers that have been, the money that's been sucked out to go to these other places. So, we're left with less resources. Teachers are left with less pay, and yet they'll have to deal with students that have the most severe needs.
Right. And it's just not fair to make everyone else pay for your child to go to the school you want them to go to.
One, like private schooling, religious schooling, that should be considered a luxury. It's not a necessity. Learning is a necessity. You have public school for that. If you want to be able to send your kid to a private school or a religious school, you have to pay for it yourself. That's not something you should be asking the government to pay for.
Right. Because remember, when you're talking about the government, you're talking about us.
Yeah.
Right? Talking
it's
about
coming from taxpayers.
Yes.
We're the taxpayers.
But yeah. And then, on that note, both of them also support keeping religion out of the classroom, which is something that Trump wants to put in the classroom. And also, any other censorship they do not support in the classroom, whereas Trump wants to keep all the woke agenda, censorship, Black history out of the classroom.
Right. Yeah.
Right, so censoring books, so they believe in having parents go through libraries and pull books out. out of schools and out of public libraries. And the problem with this is that if you don't want your child to read something, then don't let them read it. But you shouldn't have, one person or one family shouldn't have the ability to control what everybody's children read, right? That isn't our role in society, right? People should be free to read and learn and explore other people's stories as much as they want. And if you don't want, that's your right too. But one person imposing your views on others, that is a recipe for disaster. And it's just basically wrong. And certainly, if you're one of those patriots, not what our country was founded on.
Right, because again, they're founded on actual freedom.
Yes.
Of you learn what you want, you believe what you want, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's always so funny to me because they'll say to LGBT stuff, they'll be like, get it out of my face, don't flaunt it and stuff. But they do the same with religion. Is all they do is shove it down your throat and put it in your face and stuff, and it's like, you cannot have that both ways.
Well,
I mean, it shouldn't. I mean, it should be flipped. Like, we should be able to be who we are wherever, but religion should never be forced down other people's throats. But it's just crazy how they're so hypocritical in literally every way.
Because it's just what they want. They just want what they want. They want everyone to be like them.
Well, they're very small-minded people, and that's the problem. Is you have what's sad is, again, you have half of this country who are letting people dictate to them what they should and should not know. Right? They're trying to create a servant class, basically, right? Mm-hmm. A class of people who cannot and will not think for themselves, that they can just tell what to do.
Mm-hmm. They should just move to, I know that, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, careful.
Well, at first I was going to say they were born in the wrong century.
Well, that's probably true.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think just what it comes down to, if that's how you want to live your life, great. Live your life that way. But don't impose that philosophy on everyone else.
Well, but what I'm saying is these people are contributing to their own, I'm just going to say the word enslavement, right?
Yeah.
They are letting a group of people up here, you okay there? They are letting a people group up, up here say, oh, don't read this. Oh, don't listen to that. Oh, don't believe your eyes over here, right? Until they're so suppressed, right, that they'll take whatever pablum is fed to them, so that they're easy to control.
Right, because they won't complain, because it's just, it is what it is mentality, and they say it's fine, so it's fine.
Yeah. So instead of being, the way, because the whole point is our country was founded on protest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? We were founded on, being not just diverse, but being adversarial, right? Thinking of an idea and not necessarily in a bad way, but challenging. Mm-hmm. Challenging the status quo. And instead, these people want to take all that out, right?
Yeah, they want to go back to what life was 3-4 years ago.
But life was not like that. That's what they think it was.
Yeah.
It's what they think it was, because there was at this point, what they don't understand. And it saddens me as a teacher that they had bad teachers. Mm. But the American Revolution was not necessarily a war fought with guns. It was a war of ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. It was about the fact that we didn't, one person couldn't be born into a position to be king, right? Yeah. That we all have a right to self-determination. That we all could choose who we wanted to be and become that, right? We didn't have to be what our dad was or what our mom was. We didn't have to, be in the same class that they were as far as, poverty or rich or gentry. We could be whatever we wanted to be, and no one could control us. And that's what the true American Revolution was, right? No other country had thought of that and thought we could govern ourselves. It was unthinkable, and yet we did it. Mm-hmm. And now we have a bunch of people who are going, don't want that. Let's get a guy, put him up there, and he can tell us what to do. Is it easier? Yes, it is. Is democracy hard? Absolutely.
Especially with a country so big.
And so diverse.
But it is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is, I remember coming back from...
That's a theme of One Piece. Okay.
I remember coming back from Egypt. I went to Egypt just
Do
before...
what you want, freedom, personal freedom
Yeah.
versus oppression.
Yes.
It's a big theme of One Piece, but anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
I came back from Egypt right before their revolution. I got out just before the revolution. I went as a tourist, had a wonderful time if you ever get a chance to go to Egypt. And they were just going through their revolution. They had just started when I landed my plane back home. And one of our people at work was from Egypt. And she was so excited, right? She was from Alexandria, and her family was so excited because they had thrown out the dictator and blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I said, that's so wonderful. I said, now the hard work begins.
Yeah.
And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she goes, what do you mean? That was, it was hard for us to get rid of him. And I said, I know. I said, but try building a government now. Mm-hmm. A democracy is not an easy thing to create.
Yeah.
And
especially when you have, for them, millennia of history contrary to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously they've struggled and they've gone back and it's been hard. But that's where we are now. We are at an inflection point in our history where we decide, is democracy worth it?
Yeah.
Do we continue? Or do we decide it's just easier for some other guy to tell us all what to do?
Yeah.
And it's sad that right now it looks like about half our country is willing to give it up and go, yeah, I'd rather just be told.
That's why I'm telling you.
Watch One Piece.
Yes. But also, just give it a shot. Just try it. Just try it. And just vote all blue. Vote for Harris. Just try it. And this is the try before you buy period. And just test it out. And if you don't like it, then do whatever you want next time. But just try it this time and see how it affects your life in the next 4 years. Maybe 8 years if we want to be generous. We don't know what's going to happen.
It's true because...
But just try it and then make your decision from there. Because we also already tried Trump. We already know what's going to happen.
Well...
That didn't work out for anybody, really.
It's going to be worse the second time because all those people that were there that told him he can't do this and he can't do that aren't going to be there.
Right.
You're going to get Project 2025.
Yes.
So...
Which we covered.
Yeah, and if you don't remember how terrible that is, go back and rewatch them or listen to them again.
It's true. And like Ryan says, try this because if we do vote to lose our democracy,
you will not get the chance to change it.
There's no going back.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. There's no going back.
Exactly. So think about this one. As I said, democracy is hard, and this is one of the reasons it is hard, right? Because individual citizens are making these decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And not easy. As you guys have put in your podcast, right? Reading up on laws and propositions and it's hard, and it's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of things of people taking like 7 hours to drive and wait in lines to go vote. Like, it's not easy. It definitely should be a lot easier. But if you vote for Trump, it's never going to get easier. If you vote for Harris, hopefully it does. I mean, in California, where she's from, we all get a mail-in ballot that we can receive, fill it out, drop off, or mail back. And, we don't have to wait in lines. We don't have to drive super far. But we all get a say in our democracy. And that's how it should be for everybody. But a lot of other states want to say that your voice, we're going to make it harder for you to vote because we don't want your voice heard.
Yeah.
But only one side is fighting for that. So my last point on education is that, and a lot of these points were just from what Harris has said. She doesn't have any official things on her website because most of them are economics related. Because as you said, economics and abortion, which we all know where she stands. But economics is the other really big thing for this election. Mm-hmm. But in 2019, when she was running for the presidency, she said that she wanted to increase teacher salaries to match the other professions that require a college degree, and this would increase the national average of around $13,400 for teachers, which would be a huge raise.
Yeah, teachers are criminally underpaid.
Whereas Trump wants to make teachers get paid by merit.
Right. Yeah.
Which means that if their students are doing well, the teachers are getting paid better. Which, is kind of a terrible way of...
It's flawed, because the teacher... Yes, you have good teachers and you have bad teachers, and you have some teachers who really care about their students and put in the extra effort and whatever. But even if you have a teacher like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that the student is going to perform better. Because it's not 100% based on the teacher. It's also based on the student and their learning capabilities and their mental capabilities and their physical capabilities. The students are their own individual factors as well as the teacher.
There's also so many other things that aren't even education related that affect how well you do on a test.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like your home life. Or, you could be having a really bad day, or something could have happened.
Absolutely. Mental
or
health.
Maybe the test was just, for whatever reason, written weird or whatever, and you didn't understand it. Like, there's just so many other things that could make it go wrong, and then you're gonna dock the teacher's pay because a couple students just didn't perform well that day. Like, that's not fair for somebody who probably worked really hard that whole year.
Well, let me just say,
as the teacher here, yeah.
teaching is not a competition.
Well,
it is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
I should not be competing against my fellow teachers to see if I could get the best pay. I should be working with them, teaming up to make sure that all of our students get the best possible education as possible.
Yeah.
So if you're going to create an adversarial relationship in a school, that is not going to help students.
Yeah, because also, I didn't really think about it, but schools only have a certain amount of money they can spend. So if one teacher did really well and we're saying we're gonna pay them more, that means somebody else has to get less because the bucket's only so full that we don't get a bigger bucket.
Right. Well, and what do you do about teachers like me? I'm an intervention teacher, so I get the lowest of the low. My kids are never going to be doing as high as somebody else's.
Yeah, because you're focusing on the students who are already struggling.
Exactly. And so they're never going to do, they may improve, but they're not going to reach grade level on a standardized test, right? My job is to make them grow. And even when I was a classroom teacher, a lot of times I got the most difficult or lower students, right? Because I'm a reading specialist, so I would get students who were lower, and my team teacher would get GATE students. Well, so how is that fair? Her kids are always going to be better than my kids.
Right.
Doesn't mean I may actually be working harder than she is.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you're a worse teacher.
Correct.
So why do you get less money because your students are going to score lower?
Yeah. So there's a lot of problems with merit pay. And, again, a lot of problems with education that has to do with politicians trying to impose ideas on education when they have not been in the profession and they don't understand.
Put more money into schools and let them figure out the best way to do it.
100%. That is the best education policy. Fund it, first of all, and then let the professionals do what they do.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yes.
But yeah, and then so for my last point, main point, I have social issues. So the first one I have is for women. Her goal is to restore Roe v. Wade. That's the biggest thing, and abortion rights, which is very important because Trump ruined everything. And
remember, just because we are in California, but if there is a national abortion ban, it won't matter. Even in California, there will be an abortion
right, because it's federal, which Trump's state.
Is that what he's going to do?
Supersedes.
He wants to.
It supersedes
Vance
state
does
is
too.
what I meant to say. I said Trump's because that's a word that you use for that. But federal law supersedes state law.
Oh, I got the vocabulary, yes.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that even if that goes to the Supreme Court, they're very likely to uphold that law. But if Harris wins and some Supreme Court people retire or die,
vacate the position,
up to as many as 3 possible.
Yeah, because some of them are very old. We could flip the court into a more progressive / just set of people.
Yeah.
Who are not just puppets, and won't just overturn things that have been precedented and basically taken as law. And then randomly just been like, nope, that's not good anymore. So,
And this is the other reason to look at voting Democratic down ticket, right? Because if we have the Senate back, I know that there are senators who would like to
impeach
certain Supreme Court justices, Thomas.
Yeah.
For obvious corruption.
it couldn't be more blatant.
Correct. Or expand the court. So I mean, there are other options out there, but and I know Harris hasn't said anything. Obviously, she's under the President Biden, and so there's things that she can't obviously say. But I do know that there are senators out there who would really like to hold hearings and try to at the very least, put in a ethics rules that would be enforceable.
I'm kind of surprised that those don't exist already.
Right?
But I guess... But just
like
like
it wasn't necessary.
But just like with nominating a criminal, we just never thought it would happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
We just believed in our people, which after 250 years turned out we shouldn't have.
Well, that's bound to happen.
Well, that's the thing. We're an evolving country. We're a growing country who, as Auntie said, nobody had done this before. And now people have done things and they've evolved.
Yeah, but I feel like they had a lot of faith in humanity going forward with...
Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but
remember,
No
we have to remember
protections.
too. We do have to remember too that
I feel like I know
people
what you're
didn't
say.
that the country, although it was created on an idea, it was created for rich white men
Who had slaves, so that we know they're not perfect people.
And people didn't really live as long.
And women didn't have rights and couldn't vote. Again, slavery was a very prominent thing in this country. So, yeah, it was made for rich white men also.
Landowners, really. Not even rich, right? You had to own land. Yes,
white men.
exactly.
Yeah, so it was... They had a lot of great ideas, but you have to remember where it came from.
Correct.
Because that does contextualize a lot of things.
So the last thing I have is just... Because we already talked about how she also has policies to help black men. That's huge social issues. You can read that on KamalaHarris.com. If you want more details. But the last one I have is the LGBTQIA plus community. And while she doesn't have anything specific lined up in her policies on her website, she has a very clear history of supporting the community since the 90s. She worked with Newsom to originally legalized same-sex marriage in San Francisco in 2004. And then she was actually the one marrying a bunch of couples.
That's cool.
Yes.
That later got overturned, but then they restored it, and then she and Newsom worked together to legalize it in California as a whole. And then they were very large opponents of Prop 8 when that was a thing in 2008, which was...
banning same-sex.
Yeah,
marriage.
it was...
Yeah.
I remember that.
And basically, when she was running for Attorney General, she said, if you guys elect me, if Prop 8 passes, I will not be defending this when it goes to the Supreme Court. And a lot of people think that's a huge reason why it failed. Because the other person who was running against her for Attorney General was a huge advocate for Prop 8. So they think she really helped shoot that down.
Nice.
What were you going to say?
Well, and I was going to say, regardless of where you stand on this issue, I think Tim Walz says it all, right? Mind your own damn business. It shouldn't matter to you who someone else loves.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter to you how someone else lives as long as you get to live your life. Leave other people alone.
When, like you said with women, people should just be allowed to make their own choices.
Yeah.
Like, our choices don't affect you. Whether you want to have an abortion or you want to, be in a relationship with somebody of the same sex, it really doesn't matter to other people. Like, let me live my life. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Like, we all want to help build each other up, but also for those people who want to be all about themselves, let us live our lives, because you selfers are also really about involving yourselves in other people's lives, and that seems very contradictory.
Oh, I totally agree with that. But yeah, I think that is one, again, when we were talking about the differences, is you have Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, who are very inclusive of people, right? Mm-hmm. You can just the way, you were talking about when someone fainted and needed help, he didn't know who that person was, but he stopped everything and made sure they had help, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's who we should be as a people. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter, what your life is like. If you need help, we help you. We let you live your life. The other side, the exact opposite, right? They want to be free to make their money, but they want to be in your bedroom, in your doctor's office, They don't believe in you having freedom as long as they themselves have freedom.
Right.
And that is not free.
Right. And to those of you who that may sound appealing to, ask yourselves, if these people get in office, do you get that power that you want so badly? No, you don't. So this doesn't even help you. Even if you are somebody...
Especially if you're not a white man, you will not have that
Yeah,
power.
but even if you are somebody who you're like, man, I want to do that, that sounds great to me. You don't get that power either. Like, it's not actually helping you. You're just gonna suffer with everyone else too. So, why?
But yeah, and then so my last 2 points, one of the things is that she was heavily criticized for, while she was Attorney General, that she was defending the Department of Corrections when they were denying gender-affirming care to inmates. But she stated that, as Attorney General, they were her client. Like, that was her job, was to literally defend this government entity. But she worked behind the scenes to get them to change their policy, and they later started allowing those procedures and care to be applied to inmates. So while, publicly she had to defend them in court and stuff, she's like, I was working to get it changed so that I didn't have to do that anymore, and so these people could get those treatments.
Working outside the system.
Which is, good. I mean, because you have to do your job, because you can't make change if you just go against everything, don't do your job, you're going to get fired. But, she figured out a way to make it work. And, it sucks that you get criticized for some of it, but, like, you have to figure out how to work the system, and I think she seems like she's good at doing that and getting, a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And then also just want to state that when elected for Senate in 2016, she was given a score of 100 on the Human Rights Scorecard, which assesses support for the LGBTQIA community, as long as other minority groups such as women, African Americans, and all that stuff.
Is 100 high?
I think it's out of 100.
Oh, okay, good.
So,
I don't know, it could be out of 1,000.
So yeah, she is a champion of minorities and rights for all, and that's great.
That is great. I agree.
It's refreshing.
Well, and I think that's the crux of it, right? You look at her record, and believe your eyes. This is what she is. We've seen it, right? She is for people. We talked about she is empathetic, and believe your other eyes when it comes to Trump, right? Believe your eyes there too. He is for himself, and he is doing what he's doing so that he doesn't go to jail.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to end on one final question. Everybody, one sentence answer. Why should Kamala Harris be the next president of the United States? Who wants to start?
Point with your wand.
Josh.
Did you light it up?
No.
You have to activate him. There you go.
Was that just in your
Yeah,
eyes?
it's blowing right now.
He made me do it.
I thought it'd be a fun idea. It went awry immediately.
She speaks for the minority, which as a minority, it's refreshing.
I'm voting for Harris because I think that she's clearly the better option in every category one can measure a president in. As a person, her policies, her approach to being president, I think are all presidential. And I think she's just the clearly superior option. And I think that she will lead America farther and push us forward, which I want to see.
For me, she's the clear choice because she supports the things that I believe in and the people I care about.
Yeah, for me, I think she should be the next president because, she wants to uphold democracy and she wants to make life better for everybody in America. Especially the middle class and minorities, which is, as we stated, once everybody's better off, we're all better off. And, we're stronger together.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes, it does. It's
I thought we were all gonna do
Rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, there could be a ship lifted too.
It's true, but
And that's actually a good analogy because some people have dinghies, some people have boats, some people have ships.
I thought he was
some
going to
people
say
have yachts.
I thought he was going to say that's a good analogy because One Piece.
No, I mean I could tie it to that, but no.
Everything goes back to One Piece.
Everything goes back to One
That's because it's
Have you
an
met
amazing, comprehensive, well-written story. But that's not what this analogy is about.
Okay, bye.
You have no. Let me finish the analogy. There are different boats. Right? People start in different places. People have different means. But if the water level rises, then everyone rises with it. Mm-hmm. So we support everybody.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because then everybody benefits. Doesn't matter how big your boat is.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. You totally ruined my moment, dude.
Sorry.
Okay. Alright. Thanks for watching, everyone, and listening. And make sure that you vote in this election.
And tell us why you think Kamala Harris should be the next president.
And again, if you don't, try it. Just try it. Just try it. So have you like with the Krabby Patty, and SpongeBob tried to get Squidward to eat the Krabby Patty,
okay.
and he was refusing to eat the Krabby Patty, and he was like, just try it, and he tried it, and then he loved it. You don't know what you like until you have it, so just give it a shot.
Have an open mind.
Have an open mind.
But for Harris.
Yes. That's the one.
Don't
Harris is the Krabby Patty. Trump is the Trump bucket. Do you want to eat at the Trump bucket? No.
Nobody wants to eat at the Trump bucket.
Nobody wants to eat at the Trump bucket.
You want virtual food?
Go to, what's it called? Krusty Krab.
Krusty Krab!
Yeah.
Bye!
Bye.